All right, cool. Just be aware that this meeting will be recorded. I hope it's okay with all of you. So, what I'm going to try to do today is give an intro into how to break into a career with AWS. And I've been asking my group as well in South Africa to say, have any of you actually been able to get jobs with your AWS cloud practitioner? And the response I've had has been mixed. Some have said yes, some have said no, I'm stuck with my AWS cloud practitioner. Should I do the associate? What does it mean? And today I will be, and feel free to jump in and have your say. Type into the chat. Let me just bring up the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat as well. If you have a question, just type it into the chat and then have your say. So I will be starting with my target audience. This is targeted at recent graduates that want to know, how do I build a career with AWS? How do I make sure that I can grow with AWS? What does it mean to me? How does this even work? Can I get a job with an AWS certificate? And the big answer is yes. All right. And if there's anyone from South Africa who has recently been employed due to an AWS certification, just type into the chat and tell us how you did. We'll have an open discussion later on where we'll just have an open, back and forth about, what did you do to actually end up landing the job? Because the most critical thing about building your career is that you must start, right? You're not building a career if you're unemployed. You know what I mean? We need to break in. We need to get that first job that will help you to get your hands dirty, and then you'll build from there. So, I will be talking about, what are top employers and what are cool employers. As a junior, sometimes you don't know, am I at the right place? Have I chosen the right company? What's the difference between a large enterprise versus a young startup? What's the difference between a dynamic employer versus a traditional, where am I? We'll talk about being junior, being intermediate, being senior, being an architect. And when I'm talking about an architect, I'm not talking about an academic architect. I'm talking about an industry validated architect, where there are a couple of ways you can be an architect. You can get a qualification, you can get experience, and you can maybe just build a business. Okay, so. And I've seen people who have just gone and built a business, and because they're building a technology business, like a friend of mine built a delivery business, and because he's building a business and building a piece of technology, he amasses a whole lot of skill, and that makes him an architect. But he doesn't, because he's self-employed and is building a real-world business that does food delivery, he does not need to have a qualification, all right, because his credentials are his business, and he can tell you about how to build a mobile app that does food delivery. He's got one already, and when he talks to let's say the app didn't do well. It did well in South Africa for my ex-colleague, and I will bring him to talk about how he did that. If it didn't work out for him, he would be able to go on and take on a job in wherever. And the fact that he tried to build a business would qualify as a qualification. It would be equatable to a BSc degree or a master's, or a professional certification in AWS, because he's running his application on AWS. So we'll be talking about those nuances about it, because it's not a one size fits all in how you build a career. You can come at it from different angles, and then we'll talk about what employers want from you, and we'll even talk about the sensitive salary of the sensitive subject of salaries, and how you can understand Am I being paid the right amount? Am I with, like, why is the industry not giving me more money? Should I go to my boss and say, give me more money? And you shouldn't do that. It doesn't work that way, right? And we'll talk about how you make sure that you are being rewarded appropriately for the work you're doing. So I'm South African, so I've taken some South African examples, but I've put Safaricom there. These are top IT employers. They're usually big banks, big telcos, big insurance companies, even government organizations. They employ lots of people. They'll give you all the perks that comes with being employed by a large enterprise. So some of them will give you a home loan at a good rate. They will give you medical aid. They will, you'll be secured in your employment with them. All right. They've been around for years and years. This is where you could look at, and a lot of Kenyans work at Safaricom. This is where you could look at as a place to start your career. All right. And you have, new cool employers. All right. And, I work at Amazon, so I've put Amazon as a cool employer. It's dynamic, new tech every day. You do something different all the time. You're always learning and growing. These are some of the small IT companies that I've worked at in South Africa, and there will be equivalents in Kenya, that are doing new dynamic cutting-edge software, building mobile apps, or innovating one way or another. So I'm just giving you an example of a large enterprise versus a small dynamic employer where you get to maybe do lots of projects, try different things. And when you are starting out, you must, be aware of where you are. Are you in a small startup? Does it have enough capacity for your ambition? Is there enough room for growth for you in there, or will you outgrow the company? Are you in a large enterprise? Is it too big? Do you not get the personal attention you'd like? Is there no clear guidance because it's just so big and you're one of the many? Maybe you'd be better in a smaller enterprise. There's no one size fits all between working in a large company versus a small company, or a dynamic tech company, or a traditional bank. It's all about what you want at that time in your life. You know what I mean? And just understand that there's a difference between the different employers. Now, you will always start as a junior, all right? And I'm going to spend some time here. And here, I will want us to be a bit interactive in that feel free to type in and let's talk about this. And I want us to actually do a deep dive and talk about what it means to be a junior, because this is where a lot of you are struggling with. How do I break into the industry as a junior? All right. And I went a step further and I said, there's a newbie and a junior, and there's a difference. Okay. A newbie is like new. You're not even in a junior position. You think you should be in a junior position. You would like to be, but you're not in yet. Okay. So you're an unemployed grad. You've got all the ambition and everything, but you're not there yet, all right? The industry doesn't consider you junior, all right? You are a graduate, and just be aware of that, all right? You have less than 1 year experience. You can create a basic, you can create maybe a basic solution. Maybe you can write a simple program. Maybe you can create a VPC with some EC2s in it, with a subnet, and start up a VM and maybe connect to it via SSH. That's as far as you can go. Maybe you don't know what are containers. Maybe you have not tried serverless, but maybe that's what you have done. You know what I mean? But it's enough to actually be able to have a conversation in an interview, all right? But you must know something. You must be able to create a basic block. You must know a little bit about, you must have logged into the console. You must probably have the practitioner certification as I've highlighted it there in red. You need to know the services. You need to have logged into the console and clicked on an EC2 and created it. started it and connected to it from your machine. You must have an idea of, if I had a Python app or a PHP app and I wanted to install it on an EC2 instance, how would I do that? How would I get it there, and how would I start it up? And maybe even done it, all right? And that will get you quite far in a junior interview for an AWS role. But I mean, like, there's no such thing as an AWS role, all right? There's a AWS DevOps developer. There's an AWS Java developer. There's a PHP developer, or an administrator of a Python solution, or a big data analyst on AWS. So AWS is just a platform, but you need to be doing something on top of that platform, all right? And therefore, be also aware, self-aware, to say, what are your skills? What are you bringing to the game? And that is what you come in with, all right? So it's kind of a catch-22 for a junior, because you have to know what you're bringing to the game even before you have worked. So there's a bit of emotional intelligence to assess your own natural skills and say, this is what I bring. Therefore, my natural abilities align with X. It was easy for me to break in. Well, it was 20 years ago, but I knew that I love coding. So I said, I want to be a developer, and there was no cloud then. So I just wanted to break in as a developer. Things are more interesting now, because, yeah, you want to be a developer, but developer of what? I want to be a Python developer on AWS. Well, have you deployed a Python solution on AWS? No. Well, why? Why haven't you opened the console, gone to GitHub, pulled a a Python solution, pre-built, all right, and deployed it on an EC2 instance and fired it up and seen it in action? I didn't know how to do that. Well, that's where the resiliency comes in, that you should have the curiosity to actually try something out. Now, you could take it a step further as a junior, because you don't have the credentials, right? Take a solution from GitHub, fork it, bring it into your repo, change it, all right? And then deploy that. And leave it in your GitHub account, public. Now, when you get into an interview, you have a reference. You can say, I took the solution, I changed it, I customized it, and then I left it in my repo so that, you know, anyone else can enhance it if they want to. But I did that so that I could try out AWS with a Django solution. Does that make sense? Now, what you will have done as a newbie is you'll have created some credibility by doing a real world thing on AWS. Then when you go onto your interview, it becomes, you have a conversation with your interviewer, and it's not more of an interview. You're telling them about what you've been doing so that you are worthy of the position in front of you. So what am I saying about juniors and the cloud practitioner certificate is that, yes, the cloud practitioner is good as a starting point, but it would be good if you are a newbie to actually do something and have evidence of it in GitHub, all right? When your employer employs you as a junior, they know you're junior, so they will pay you up with a senior person. They know that you are not a senior yet, so what they are employing you for at this level is potential, not your credentials, not the fact that you have not put anything in production, you have not led a team before. So they are looking to see if you're probably more than anything, 30% technology, 70% potential. So let me say 70% soft skills. Are you a self-starter? do you have the resilience to actually take on a new piece of technology and figure it out on your own? Are you willing to actually stick with a problem until you get it right? That shows resiliency as well. Do you have your own career plan where you know how you're going to grow with this technology, independent of the employer? And that fills in that 70% soft skills. Oh, no. He only knows how to work with EC2 instances. He's played around with it. He's not done big data. He's not done machine learning. But I think we have great potential here. Let's go with that. I see there's someone who has managed to lend themselves a job. We'll get back to. Please keep your comments coming as we go through the presentation. So now you understand what it means to be a junior, how you need to think about presenting yourself as a junior, how you can break through, the importance of evidence. Think about it as a conversation, not an interview. And lastly, you need to be attractive to the employer. You mustn't be chasing them. All right, it doesn't work that way anymore. COVID has flipped it around. All right, you must have the keywords on your LinkedIn profile. So in your about section on your LinkedIn profile, you must have the keywords. You must have AWS, cloud practitioner, Python, whatever, the keywords must be there so that when the algorithm goes and scans and it tags your keywords, it's on your about section. If you have done a certificate, validate it, add it onto your LinkedIn profile. You understand? And then in your CV or resume must align with your LinkedIn profile. I mustn't look at your CV, look at your LinkedIn profile, and they don't align. So the summary on your LinkedIn profile must be on your resume as well. When I look at the top, I must see this. I must get an idea, and that okay, this person is the same person. You know what I mean? But most probably, you're more likely to be getting an interview because of your LinkedIn profile than your CV, because you'll hit more. You'll hit more employers on LinkedIn than you will emailing your CV out. And the CV is actually a second step after they've liked you on LinkedIn, where they tag you, and then you send in your CV for the interview. I spent quite some time on the junior side. All right, I love the questions, guys. Keep them coming. Let's talk about it. I see some people are saying that they've been applying and then it's not working. I have a theory about that. All right, remind me to tell you about. Well, let me tell you about the theory of being a junior. All right, I believe that if your profile is clean, up to date, well tagged, and your entry-level certificate is validated on LinkedIn, and you pick the right jobs, so they must have the word junior, entry, starting or internship or whatever. If you tag a minimum of 10 jobs, apply, all right? But they must be appropriate. So you mustn't be hanging yourself in the jobs. I believe that at least one of them will respond positively to you. Try that. Take me up on that, all right? But you must have had a review of your LinkedIn profile from someone who's already in the industry, has a clean profile. So find someone, let them review your LinkedIn profile before you go applying, and also your resume. Get someone to review you before you put yourself out there, because you might be going out there with a resume and a LinkedIn profile that are not clean. Okay, so what comes after being junior? You become intermediate, all right? So now you have broken the door, you are in. You've been given a job. Maybe you are a DevOps developer, maybe you are a Java developer, maybe you are a support engineer, maybe, I don't know, maybe you are a junior analyst. You're doing whatever you're doing in that bank, that insurance company, that mobile app development company, maybe you are the infrastructure person, all right? Now, you need to put in the work, obviously, all right? And the way to make intermediate, yes, you can get a certificate. You can still be junior with an intermediate certification, all right? And you can be intermediate with practitioner only, because your experience then will kick in. And when we combine your experience with your entry-level certification, so 1 year plus experience. So we're looking at least 2 years, okay, working in the industry, doing something specific. You know how to get your way around. You've been working with a particular service in the real world, all right? Remember, in the previous one, you were just playing around. You were just trying something. You just fire up an EC2 instance and got a Python application up and running on it, all right? And this one, you're in the real world. So you actually took something live. Maybe you automated the deployment. Maybe you supported a system that was out and you had to do reboots, whatever it was. But you did something in the real world. Now we're taking your practitioner certification, we're pegging it with the real world verifiable evidence that you have worked. Makes you intermediate, all right? Then you're in, all right? You're out of the entry-level salary bracket. You've been given a bump because maybe you moved levels within the same employer, or you've switched, all right? Now you're intermediate. Now, intermediate can be the holy grail for, in fact, it's what employs a lot of people, all right? You can be intermediate, be happy with your job, and have job security, and that's what you do. Some people do that, and it's okay. But if you want to progress beyond that, because you're going to be quite busy as an intermediate, all right? It's a fact of life. These are the worker bees of the industry. You're going to be given more work than you have time. You'll probably be 120 to 150% allocated. Everything will come to you. Yeah, the project manager will come to you. The analysts will come to you, because you are a highly skilled employee. Maybe the company doesn't have enough people working, so we take all the work, we heap it on the intermediate, and then he's busy coding at night, coding during the day. Some of you are probably coding right now as we're talking, or monitoring servers, checking for space on the database, whatever it is. Now, what does it mean for you? It means you have actually broken out of the junior bracket. You've got job security. You're doing well. All right, you can do all the things that an employed person can do. Now, to move from this bracket to the next bracket will take some effort from you to move out of intermediate into senior. All right, you have to look. You're probably reporting to someone in this role. You're probably being guided. You're probably working with an architect, with a senior developer, with a senior administrator, and they're telling you what to do. So you don't really have any responsibility for someone else, but you should be looking sideways at your peers and saying, can I lead this guy? All right. Or a piece of advice someone gave me when I was still starting out is that control is not given, control is taken. So if you're in a team and there are things going wrong, you need to actually take control of the situation so that you can direct the project. So if someone sitting next to you is stuck, you need to take responsibility and say, okay, this is how you solve that problem. If there's a system that is going live and no one is there to support it, you need to be jumping in and say, okay, no, I'll support the go live. And that is then moving you more into a leadership role, all right? Not only are you accountable for yourself, you are accountable for the next person. And that will register in the mind of an employer. The thing about it, though, is that on certification alone, it's easy to go from junior to intermediate on certification and experience. I mean, like, we know that it's not purely an academic thing, all right? But to go from intermediate to senior, the tech is kind of a given, all right? The certification is kind of a given, and maybe we can even forgo it, all right, here and that, forgo the certification based on experience. But when you go senior, the leadership is not negotiable. The ability to And I mean, like, there are two types of leadership, all right? You can lead a team or you can lead multiple teams, all right? And the ambiguity in your next role now. So let's think about, you are able to execute as an individual, but you need to, in order to have scale, you need to be able to execute as a team. Now, your ability to execute with a team now becomes important, all right? And that's how you get scale, because you can write some piece of code alone, you can watch some servers on your own, but you need to take leave, right? You need to be able to delegate to someone else. You need to do one piece and someone else does the other piece. And that's where your seniority comes in, that you can take yourself and multiply yourself in others and then achieve the goal together. And that's where I'm saying the leadership skills in a tech team becomes critical. Therefore, communication is not negotiable. And I will get into the skills later. You must be able to talk. And for the guys in Kenya and South Africa, this platform is intended specifically to address the lack of communication skills that I see in the market, that we have technically sound guys, technically unquestionable people, but they can't speak. Therefore, they can't lead. They won't step up and take responsibility and be willing to be wrong. Because if you're afraid to be wrong, you're afraid to be right. So, you know, the stage is there, but you need to step up. Like I said, leadership is not going to be given. Somebody's not going to say, hey, would you like to be a team lead? No, you need to just stand up and lead the team. And then they'll say, no, Tony is leading this team. Okay, Tony, and this is a very important thing for us as Africans, because our culture is one of not speaking. And let me switch to senior, then talk about the leadership skills, and then so you can get your senior qualification, your professional, the holy grail. Everybody wants it, but your experience must be there, your qualification must be there, but your leadership skill need to be in check. All right. So and your ability to communicate then becomes extra important. So I was saying, this platform, these meetups, we must really make them solid, in that I try to run the one in South Africa every week. All right, every week somebody must get on stage and say something. All right, and we also have Toastmasters in South Africa. We must use this as a platform for people to just jump up and say, I would like to talk about this. And you get there and you get it completely wrong, all right, because you have not prepared, because you forgot your lies. And then we'll say, no, it's a safe space. You know, you're allowed to get it wrong, all right? This is not a job interview. We're not trying to give you a promotion. It's a safe space. So you must use the Kenya, the Nairobi user group as a platform for you to build your confidence. So I'll give you 3 topics, all right? So the topics around VPCs and EC2s. If you feel confident enough that I now know how to create a VPC and everything around it in the console without infrastructure as code, and I would like to share it, all right? I would like to show people how I managed to do it, how I got it right. And maybe you tie that up, you're practicing, you tie that up with the solution architect associate. So we go find some questions in the solution architect associate, and then you do them in the real world. You find 4 of them. And then you say, I would like to present these 4 exam questions practically in a session. Then we discuss them. It's something valuable for the community. You get to practice speaking. You get to be in a leadership position. And the subject matter, you don't have to be creative about it. It's what you studied. Do that make sense? Now, this is where it nicely levels up for you. If you're doing a practitioner level set of presentation, you'll say, I've created the kinesis streams. I've managed to fire up an EC2 instance. I can show you how to connect your Windows machine onto a onto a server running on AWS. I can show you this, I can show you that. That will baseline you at that level. If when you move up and you want to present on, you know, a more intermediate, you come in with that, but we'll help you curate it, make sure that you can fill up the hour. Then at senior level, now all of that confidence, just being able to get on Zoom and talk to, kicks in. And now we have found senior material. Now it's a required life skill, a work skill for you to be able to talk at this level, all right? Now, things get a little interesting in that here, at the senior level, you need to find real-world problems and provide real-world solutions to them, all right? So we're moving out of the academic, I want to show you how to do this, I want to show you how to do that. Find a real problem and solve it for real, and then demonstrate it to someone. And there's hundreds of those, hundreds of real-world problems. My favorite problem to play around with is, let's say you have an old email that is sitting on Yahoo, and you want to stop having to go to Yahoo, and you want to back it up somewhere on an S3 bucket. I don't know. I write a little utility, I connect to this one, then I stream my information across. I've got some files sitting in Google Drive, but I want to stream them into my application so that I can do you write a little utility. I had Kelvin, who actually shared one of his projects on Kubernetes, where he found a real world problem and he documented it and he published it in Medium. At senior level, we expect you to be able to document your solution, present it to a team, then lead the team. I'm going to say it again. You must be able to find a problem, solution for it, present the solution in front of your team, then lead the team in the execution. All right, and then deliver. Now, what happens when you're delivering is that things go wrong. So you must be able to jump in and then, you know, solve the problem as they happen in real time. And that's what we expect from a senior. All right, it's not just an academic exercise. All right, and actually at this level, the real world part becomes important. That's why I would really encourage you to be comfortable writing code that you will throw away. All right. Or not. You don't have to, because Bitbucket is free. So I usually am building something at any point in time, and most of the stuff I build, I won't use. I'll just have built it, and I'll know how to build that. But it's not going to become some big app. But the knowledge that you acquire from always having a little project that you're doing is immeasurable, because you're trying to really do something. So I usually say to my students, come up with an idea for an app. And this is for the seniors. If you've done intermediate, you've done all of that, at a senior level, find a real problem, all right? Come up with an idea for a mobile app, or find an idea, something, all right? If you can't think of something, just copy something on the internet, all right? I've seen people recreate Instagram, all right? I don't find it cool for me to rewrite Instagram. I would find a real world problem, like look at children going to school and say, what can I write for them? It might not succeed, but you'll actually design an app, build an app, think about the back end. How will I deploy it on AWS? This is how I think it will work together. Try it and say, got stuck here, this is what it is. And then you'll be able to show someone what you're trying to build. Now, being able to come up with identify a problem, come up with an architecture for it, and being able to present it makes you senior, all right? And a lot of things are actually coming together in you doing that. You are actually designing, solutioning, troubleshooting, deploying, working alone in an ambiguous space. And these are all qualities of a senior person. So the ambiguity part is actually the interesting part, because you have an idea, but you don't know how you're going to solve it. You're working alone with no help. Therefore, you're having to move out of your comfort zone and work with technologies that maybe front-end technologies that you are not necessarily comfortable with. That makes you senior. And you might be an infrastructure person, not comfortable with coding, but because you don't have a developer, you have to try out some code. Very important skills to make you a senior. But the communication is the most critical part. But this, you understand, you can't communicate nothing. You must have a solution, an idea, something that you want to lead your team into. And in this case, we are leading one team, all right? So a pizza team, so 5 to 7 people in a team, that's what we're talking about. And that's what it means to be senior. And it means you can lead a team. You can be relied upon by your project that you can work with. Now here, also the emotional intelligence is that you will be leading yourself a few years back, all right? So you'll be working with juniors, we'll be working with intermediates, and then directing them on the way forward. Do you see how now it comes together? Because now you must put yourself in their shoes and say, how would I lead me if I was there? What are the lessons I've learned so far? So that's what it means to be senior. All right. And this is what everyone wants, right? Like a specialist architect is above senior. You've done your senior stuff. You've deployed your projects in production. You've got credentials behind you. Your CV is probably too big. You've got probably 5 years of real world experience. You are a domain expert, so you're good in security. You're good in DevOps. You're good in big data. One of them. All right, and that's the thing that people don't understand. You don't have to be a multi-domain expert. It's actually quite an oxymoron. You need to be an area of depth. You must have one thing that you're really, really good at, and people can rely on you for that. You must be able to understand, profit and loss. Understand that your company is investing money in a project, and if the project doesn't go live, there will be consequences financially. Therefore, if the CFO says, this is costing us too much, you must be able to motivate how you can reduce their costs. You understand? If they say this doesn't seem to align with our vision, you must be able to explain how you think it does. Or, but you must be able to have a sensible discussion with the executive of your business, and they must be able to call you into a senior meeting and say, how many developers do you think we need on this project? Or how many people do you think we need to help you? Or whatever it is. But because of your experience, you can be what we call write a lot. You can say, based on this, we usually need 5 people to do 1, 2, 3, because the work will take a month. And when I break it down into weeks, this is how long it takes. You just lean on your experience to be able to extrapolate how to build a solution. And that's what really, really experienced people do, right? They look at a problem, they don't think long about it, and they usually give you the right answer. And having a specialty certification will help, but usually you've been working in that domain for such a long time that you can certify if you want to, but you are able to execute at a specialist level without a certification. And that is that 4th level that a small percentage of the population gets to, but I'm just trying to show you where it all leads to. So now this makes things interesting, because I've not said the word architect as a job role throughout. I've said junior, I've said intermediate, I've said senior. I never said architect. And this is where the wording in the industry confuses a lot of people, because people with practitioner go and do solution architect associate, and they want to come in at a junior level as an architect. But an architect is a lead, and you don't have enough years of experience to lead us. You know what I mean? So we kind of get ourselves into a case-22 where you want to come in as an architect because you've got an architecture certification. You should be coming in as a worker bee. Find a role. Say, I want to come in as blah. And I'm talking if you are in the practitioner space, all right? And even when you have the solution architecture associate, if you don't have the experience behind you, one way or another, it's very hard to justify. Then I'd like to talk about what employers want, all right? So the certifications give us the competency, but they don't give us the communication skills. But that's what the employers want. The practitioner doesn't put you in front of an audience and force you to explain things. The practitioner doesn't create a project where there's a piece of work that needs to be owned, and then you take ownership for it. You know, it doesn't say, okay, well, after practitioner, what do I do next to benefit my employer? It doesn't make you a self-starter. You know, it doesn't give you the passion to be spending this time on a Saturday, you know, and give you a continuous learning journey. It just teaches you the tech, right? But what employers really want is this stuff. And this is never really articulated because it's kind of like out there, right? You'll get quizzed on this in the interview, but no one actually sits you down and say, the certification and your degree is just competency, it's just education. But can you speak? Can you lead a team? Can you take accountability for 2 or 3 projects at the same time and make sure that all of them deliver? Are you a self-starter? If you switch technologies, will you be able to switch? Are you passionate about it? Will you know, make time to actually explain to others how the technology works? You know, continuously learning, will you be able to do that? Then let's talk about the sensitive topic of salaries. And I apologize if you're an employer or anything like that, but we need to talk about this, all right? There is a thing called salary bands, okay? You need to know the salary bands in your country, in your currency. It differs from country to country. But as I've shown you, junior, intermediate, senior, architect, okay? Or we can say expert at the top level. There's a website called PayScale. Go to PayScale, put in your country, put in a job role, and then see where you peg, all right? Personally, I prefer you say something like Kenya, AWS Junior, PayScale. Boom, it'll tell you how much you're getting paid in your country. That's where you are, okay? It's a band, remember, all right? So you'll be at the top of the band or at the bottom of the band or somewhere in the middle. So if it's a couple of thousand out, that's the roll of the dice. That's how it is, all right? But think about, okay, how do I move from this band to the next band? Go back to the junior, intermediate, senior levels and think about how you move across the bands. Which skills? Back to the junior, intermediate, senior, you know? So your career growth now becomes unambiguous because now, since you know the bands, since you know the levels, since you know the technologies, you know how to move up the skill, up the skills ladder. So I don't even have to tell you which skills guarantee you a salary at a certain band, because you can figure. I think you should be able to sit with your friends and say, I'll share this PDF and say, what skills do you think are at intermediate? I think this, and have that you know, mental model in your head. I'm going to give you a free trick on negotiating your salary. Don't put a number. Let them offer you the salary. The first one to put the number loses. Yes. If you say, don't be like me, because I said 3,000 rands when I started, and they gave me 3,000 rands. Then I realized much later that they could have given me more. But you know, don't give them a number. Tell them that for someone of my skill level, make me an appropriate offer, and if it's market relevant, then I'll accept it. They'll probably overshoot your estimation by 30%. They'll pay you more than what you think. And basically that's the talk. Any questions? Open mic time. Feel free to unmute, and you know, let's have an open discussion. let's look at the questions that are in someone. If someone is on the call that has got a job with Cloud Practitioner, we would like to know how you did it. So feel free to unmute and just tell us how you got your job. Someone said, yeah, that they've got their entry-level job because of their mentor. It's very important to identify a mentor. And to get a mentor, you have to put yourself out there a little bit. And I've seen people do it, and it works. In the WhatsApp groups we are in the meetups and all of that, just ask for help. Type it. Say, hey guys, I am stuck trying to find a job with Cloud Practitioner. Can somebody please help review my LinkedIn profile? Put the link in. 5 people will review your profile and get back to you. Ask for help. And then the one who responds is willing to help you, right? Oh, okay, you go and you make the changes and you say, please review it. And then they do. All right, I'm going for an interview tomorrow. Which questions do you think I should prepare for? Quickly on WhatsApp, 5 questions, blah, blah, blah. Why do you want to work here? Why do you think we shouldn't hire the other 10 candidates that we have? What special skill do you bring? Tell us about a time where you did something that saved your company money, blah, blah, blah. 5 questions, you think about them, and maybe one of them comes up. Then, so that person then becomes your mentor. Be nice to them, right? Understand. If you pick a mentor, don't message them at 11 at night and think that they will stop what they're doing because you did a bad job on time management. Be kind to your even if you get a good idea and it's weekend, don't send it to your mentor because this person was nice enough to respond to you on WhatsApp. Wait for Monday around 7, send them a question. Hi, I've been thinking about this. What do you think? During an online day, all right? And then give them a day or two to respond to you. Be nice to them. Remember, this person is volunteering their time, and then they'll get back to you. If you have 2 people respond to you in the group, great. Ask them the same question. Compare the notes. The problem that I've seen is that because people, you are willing to mentor them, then they message you at odd times where like you're sleeping or it's weekend, you're with your family. Just if somebody agrees to mentor you, just message them in normal times and give them time to respond as well. But don't be afraid to remind them if maybe 4 days passed and they have not responded. You can just put a question mark, ping, and then you pop it to the top of their WhatsApp, then they'll respond to you. So that's how you organically select a mentor. Can someone with Cloud Practitioner dive straight into advanced solution architecture? I want to answer this question on Practitioner to Network Advanced. If you have the working experience, yes. If you are working in a networking environment, yes. Okay, you can bypass because then it's a survival thing. It's not about growth or whatever. You are working in that environment and you need to do it. If you are not in that space, it's going to be interesting how then you get the domain knowledge. Unless you want to switch careers, but you're super senior and maybe you're a database administrator at a high level and you want to switch domains, then yes. But otherwise, I don't see why you would want to skip levels. Practitioner, but still keep on applying, definitely will land the job. Okay, yeah, okay. All right, for those who are saying, how do I start? Pop your questions into the Nairobi user group. I hope you guys have the Nairobi AWS user group link. If you don't have it, just shout, we'll pop it into the chat. All right, I think the reason why we're not getting is actually, all right. So another thing for the Nairobi user group, I have a topic for you that you should consider doing. A LinkedIn/resume cleanup day. where we come online and people put in their resumes and their CVs, and then we clean them up live on the spot. Everybody follows, and then we do it together. That will help a lot of people. How about that? All right, that's a topic for you guys to bring in. I can participate in that. But it must be in a setting like this, so that it's not a one-on-one. So we'll take maybe 5. So you'll submit your resume and your LinkedIn profile, and then we'll clean it up together, and then we'll push it back out there, and then we'll see how it goes. Scrum Master. Well, I want to answer this question on Scrum Master. All right. The Scrum Master skill set, the Agile skill set, is not a speciality, as much as the industry says that. All right. It doesn't differentiate you from the next person, unless you're a project manager and you're managing some large program. But I hear a lot of people bring the Scrum Master certification as if it'll differentiate you from it. It doesn't. It's just a methodology. You can read a book on. In fact, there's a lot of free material on what it means to be an Agile coach, what it means to be a Scrum Master, how to run an Agile project, and all of that. And it's not a speciality. I would prefer that you focus on hard skills, because that's what the industry wants. But also, I'm not a project manager, so I can't advise on someone wanting to do a project management journey. But I've seen project managers who have done the technical journey just so that they're more solid as a project manager. Because what happens if you're just too soft as a project manager and don't have the hard skill is that your technical team will mess you around. So, I mean, I have a colleague from Kenya who went and did the AWS practitioner and the solution architect because he was tired of the team always giving her the wrong estimates. Now she's a solution architect and a project manager at the same time. So when you give her an effort estimate, you better know what you're talking about. So Scrum Master is not mutually exclusive with the AWS stuff. You're not choosing from one and the other. It's a complement. All right, it's nice to have. I'll contact you offline. Okay, so the one, Eric Njoroke, you want a review of your CV. Please join the group, the Nairobi group. Find out when they are scheduling the group CV review. Then let's have it all together. Mark, did you want to say something?
Hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for the insights that you've given. I think especially the intermediate and seniority part has been very insightful to a certain extent. So my question is, I think you talked about building credibility with projects done. So mostly, as you said, we have a lot of technical people as such, very sound technically, but number one, maybe proof of work is not really as good, and also maybe communication. So how would you advise, especially building that credibility with different AWS projects? Is there maybe a favorite publication you've seen where people actually building projects on AWS and really documenting it very well that you could actually point us to? And also, how else can you actually kind of document your journey on AWS?
The best way to document your journey is with GitHub. So go to GitHub, find a Django application, and it can be a broken Django application, and you fix it, and then you fork it into your own repo, and then you document how you have, or find open source projects that you can contribute to, and because your contributions are public, that's how you can have evidence that you're doing something in a particular domain. But pick a domain. You can't, if you want to be a React Native contributor, then that's what you do. If you want to contribute to Golang projects because you're just so kick-ass at Golang, then go find some open source cool Golang projects and contribute to them. Kubernetes, but find a domain to contribute to, or just clone projects and actually play around with them in your own repo and leave them public. And then mention them in your LinkedIn profile. But informational, not necessarily because you're trying to get a job, but because you think it's cool. So do a post, fix something, and then post it on your LinkedIn. Say, this is a cool way to do X, Y, and Z. have a look at my repo, blah, 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 and boom. Also, volunteering to give a talk like this is critical, all right? Prepare a talk like this on a particular technology that you like to be known for, talk to the user group, and come online. Put this on your LinkedIn profile. You'll post it, right? And then we will repost it. So think about it. I've got all of AWS following me, and someone else has got, their organization following them. Someone's got Safaricom, and we are all in this group. Now you are coming to give a talk, you post, we repost. People see you. That's how you build your profile as well. So giving talks also helps. The WhatsApp group is in the chat. Please join it. I hope this was a useful session for you. We've overrun by 3 minutes. Any other questions before you close? Any comments from the leadership of the Nairobi group?
Sello, I think this was a very informative session. Personally, I've learned something, especially on negotiation, and and I'm sure that most people here might be very technically sound, but when it comes to negotiation, they don't know. They don't know their value. So
especially the part where you don't name the number, right? You exactly. Make me an offer. Puts you in the driver's seat, because you can then take the offer and run to your friend and say, hey man, they're offering me this, is this good, is it bad? Or reach out to someone with industry experience and tell them, hey, this is what I've been offered, what do you think? And then they'll say, yeah, maybe. Or the response you usually will get is like, so much money, take it. So yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, I don't know if there is anyone who has maybe a particular question regarding AWS career. This is the time. If you have any question, this is the time. Sello will be able to answer. If none, let's maybe have our cameras on and we have a screenshot, and yeah, people can break to.
So I just wanna add something here, that there's a friend of mine, a colleague of mine in AWS, who is trying to build a project with drones. Okay, and I mean, and I know drones are cool, right? So how about we do this? How about I bring him into the Nairobi group, and he tells you what he's trying to do. And then we try to build a team out of this group to help him with this drones project. And this is an AWS guy, and you get to participate in his project. How about that? How cool is that? So take me up on this offer. I'll bring my colleague on. I'll ask him if it's okay, if he's willing to open it up. And I think it's a cool project, but he just doesn't have the time to do it. So it'll be a nice project for us as a community to build. Maybe we'll even meet physically and try to build it together, because, drones are just the coolest thing. Like, we build drones, we connect them to AI, and we control them remotely, and they do something for us. All right, those are the 2 items. So we'll do a CV cleanup, and then I'll come back with a drones project. Anything else?
I see there is Jackton has Jackton. You can ask your question.
Thank you, Tony. I hope you are getting me. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sello, for this session. My question will be: I'm coming from the Azure background. So how do you approach the situation of merging the 2 vendors in terms of knowledge per se, or the technical approach towards these 2 vendors?
You're saying you're coming from an Azure background?
Yes.
And your question is, how do they compare?
No. How would you, let's say, for example, if you're coming from an Azure perspective or even AWS, and you want to go to another vendor per se, how would you approach and merge the 2 knowledge and be a whole?
All right. So yeah, let me just. A lot of people tend to be technology specific or vendor specific. But when you're building a career, you should be technology agnostic and vendor agnostic. All right, because senior is senior, irrespective of vendor. Compute is compute, right? CPUs don't change now because you're on another platform. Well, there's a difference between CPUs between the different platforms, but the concept of compute remains the same. Kubernetes is Kubernetes. Java is Java. Python is Python. So don't measure yourself based on vendor or language or anything like that. Measure yourself on your ability to execute. Period. Like, if I gave you an ambiguous problem, would you be able to resolve it? Because none of the levels are vendor or technology specific. So you have to find yourself there, irrespective of which platform, and say, how do I move to the next one? It's not about you're on this platform versus that. It's a career development thing. Does it make sense?
Definitely, correct.
Yeah, exactly. So you can be senior in Azure, you can be senior in AWS, you can be senior on any other platform. It doesn't really matter. You're senior, or you're intermediate, or you're junior.
Thank you.
And usually, as you switch, if you come to AWS and you're a senior on Azure, like, you'll still be senior here, right? Because your experience will show that.
Thank you.
All right, cool.
I saw another hand from Nancy. I don't know if still you have the the same question.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Please, I just wanted to ask, maybe from an experienced level, where you want to not switch careers, you want to integrate. Let's take, for example, my career, the hydrogeology field and the IT field. Because I realized that when I was in the hydrogeology field, every software we use, they are being built by IT people and not hydrogeologists. So you find out that it's very difficult. Maybe there are times where you find some glitches in the software and all that.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask, like, in terms of integrating both fields, for me, I'm more passionate about data. So
exactly.
I don't want to be a developer. I don't want to be building, I'm more passionate about data. So how do I go about that, where I don't need to cramp a lot, because I know there's a lot in the IT field?
Yes. So you need to first identify a problem you want to solve in your field, and then work backwards from it. So you're in, sounds like you're in chemistry or science or something.
Yeah. It's the science field, hydrogeology.
Exactly. So one of the biggest problems you guys have is too much data, right? In spreadsheets, in paper, and all of that.
Yes, sir.
Identify one of those problems and say, how would I solve this with technology? Work backwards, and it will show you which technologies you have to learn. It will usually be in the big data space. You might have to learn a little bit, maybe if you're doing paper digitization, about OCR and Amazon Textract, how to go from an image to text, and then how you drop that into an S3 bucket. But working from a problem makes the technology just a means to an end. Then you become what they call a informatics specialist. So a chemistry person who happens to know information technology and how it applies to your field. But identify a problem, pair up with a technology person so that they can upskill you on the parts of the technology that you need to work on.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to have to stop it here. We've overrun by 12 minutes. I know we can talk the whole day. Thank you for making the time. I look forward to talking to you again.
Maybe can we switch on our cameras so that I can take like some screen.
Sello, you can stop sharing the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you, and have a nice weekend. Bye.
Cheers.